Good morning, tribe. Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. Hopping in from the future while I'm editing here. This is the third in a three-part series around Williston, North Dakota. North Dakota turned out to be a total surprise to me. It was kind of an add-on in our summer travels and completely and totally unexpected. So in part one, we were getting to Williston. We spent the night after visiting the Whirlawhip, which was really awesome, in Sydney, North Dakota. Sydney? Or Stanley? Can't remember now. Anyway, another North Dakota video. We visited the Whirlawhip there, which was super cool, and then we ended up spending the night at an abandoned RV park with a lot of truck traffic. It was pretty interesting. And from there, we went to Williston, North Dakota, which is where a friend of mine from Tehachapi grew up. So that was kind of cool when I found that out. And I know he's been watching these videos and checking them out as well. So anyway, so the first video in this series was all about getting there. And, no big drama. Talked a little bit about frugality and stuff like that in that video. Pretty cool. For those of you that love seeing the scenery, you'll like that one. But you don't have to watch that one in order for the next two to make sense. In the second video, we visited the Interpretive Center at the Missouri Yellowstone Confluence and ended up spending the night at the boat ramp there after we went through the Fort Buford grounds, visited the cemetery. Beautiful area. A lot of really cool history there. Everything from fur trading to buffalo soldiers, Lewis and Clark, Masons, just really cool history. So we had a great time doing that, and then spent the night at the boat ramp that night. And then the next day we went and visited Fort Union, which was 10 minutes away, maybe 15, can't remember, not very far. And what was really cool about Fort Union, which was a fur trading post, and never a military fort, it wasn't a defensive fort, it was a trading fort. Part of what was cool about that, and that's what this video is all about, you'll find out how far the river moved away from where the fort had originally been located on the riverbanks. You'll get to see how small a fort this was comparatively and find out what life was like there. So I hope you enjoy this video. We're going to roll the intro and get right into it. We'll be right back.
Wake up with the sun in our eyes. Sally forth, no need for goodbyes. Journey calls, let's roll the dice. Every mile a new surprise.
Welcome to Montana. We have just crossed the state line. We were at Fort Buford, and now we're coming into Fort Union Trading Post, National Historic Site, in Montana. And of course, I've been having time zone issues again. Currently, my watch thinks it's 9:37 or something like that, which I think is the correct time, but I've flipped back and forth several times this morning, so I have no idea where the time zone is. And I guess you don't really need a good view of the parking lot, so we're going to get up in here and show you what we got going on. All right, well, let's give you a little overview. Here we are at the Fort Union Trading Post National Historic Site, and I'm showing you the map because I want you to notice that the state line runs right down the middle of this picture with North Dakota on the right and Montana on the left. Now, we spent the night last night a couple of miles away at a boat ramp in North Dakota. And we are currently standing in Montana. I'm going to show you where the state line is, though. And of course, as we know, fur trading became a very big deal in the early 1800s. And John Jacob Astor's American Fur Company built Fort Union here near the junction of the Missouri and the Yellowstone Rivers in 1829. This post soon became the headquarters for trading beaver furs and buffalo robes with the Assiniboine Indians to the north, the Crow Indians on the upper Yellowstone, and the Blackfeet who lived further up the Missouri. In its heyday, the fort was a busy place and employed up to 100 people. A bourgeois, or manager, directed Fort Union's operations and the activities of its traders and craftsmen. During its 38 years of operation, travelers and famed men passed through Fort Union's gates. Adventurers, artists, scientists, and priests, even princes, made their way up the Missouri to this site. As you enter the fort, imagine you are a river traveler of the 1830s stepping off your steamboat and into one of the busiest and grandest of a network of fur trading outposts. Now keep in mind, those fur trading outposts go all the way to the west coast. So we've had that experience quite a few times in our travels further west. And it's funny, I've always thought about, the Dakotas being kind of in the west, but I think they're really, I guess they're part of the plain states, but kind of more Midwest than west, actually. Here comes our first glimpse of the fort up there. The object of your mission is to explore the Missouri River and such principal stream of it as, by its course in communication with the waters of the Pacific Ocean, whether the Columbia, Oregon, Colorado, or any other river, may offer the most direct and practicable water communication across the continent for the purposes of commerce. Although your route will be along the channel of the Missouri, yet you will endeavor to inform yourself by inquiry of the character and extent of the country watered by its branches. From President Thomas Jefferson's instructions to Captain Meriwether Lewis, June 20th, 1803. So, of course, the Lewis and Clerk expedition, Corps of Discovery, came through here. And part of what's really interesting that we learned yesterday at the Missouri Yellowstone Confluence site is, so I want you to notice this, sorry, interrupting myself, but notice this, we are now entering North Dakota. And on this side, we're entering Montana. I think I'm going to stand in 2 states at once. Pretty cool. What do you think, Kit? What do you think? Is it pretty cool? Anyway, what we learned yesterday at the Confluence site was that the course of the river both rivers has changed dramatically over the years. So some of the means of transport included dugouts, Indian bull boats, keel boats, Mackinaws, and Yellowstone was the first steamboat to arrive at Fort Union. There's a painting by Carl Bodmer, whatever. Okay. One of the things that I have been seriously enjoying in our travels together with Barb this summer has been her willingness to use her rig to transport us when we're going to the same locations. Oh, this is a dead end. I thought this was a trail. Wonder if I can get back down this way. Looks like I can. Gravel pits. Riverbanks here are underlaid with a stable base of gravel. This was important to the American Fur Company when it selected this site to build Fort Union because its presence stabilized the riverbank from erosion and kept down mud. Gravel is rare in this area, and the commercial value of the deposits almost caused the fort's destruction in more recent times. Quarrying scarred the landscape until it was halted when this land was acquired in trust by the State Historical Society of North Dakota. The Historical Society held the land while the community and Congress set about establishing Fort Union as a National Historic Site. So here's an aerial view of the quarrying scars and the remains of a gravel pit. Meriwether Lewis and William Clerk were among the first to recognize the suitability of this site for a trading post. Their expedition passed through this area on its way to the Pacific coast. The explorers noted that the riverbanks here had a gravel base and were situated well above the flood level. Cottonwood and ash were readily available for construction, and the site provided a broad vista which would prevent approaching Indians from being concealed. Indians on their trading migrations would also be able to see an outpost from a great distance. Okay, guess we'll go back down this little walkway here. Kit's gonna show us where to go. Kit's gonna show us where to go. Well, I guess Barb got way ahead of me. Oh, Barb went back to the RV. All right, let's take a look over here. Very cool. Look at that. So, I don't think we're all that close to the river because of the movement of the river having changed its course over the last 100 years. But I imagine when the fort was built, it probably was quite close to the river. So this is a partial reconstruction of the original fort. And that's happened in a number of locations because of the building materials that were used in the original time periods and so forth. Okay, well, I don't think this is really an ADA compliant site. Glad we're not in a wheelchair. And it's pretty chilly this morning. It's still in the low 60s, and I'm A-okay with that. All right, before we go inside, let's see what we got over here. Riverboat landing. During the historic period, Fort Union's busy deepwater landing was located just below where you are now standing. So if you look down there, I mean, it's all trees and stuff now. And the river is kind of pretty far out there at this point. Over the years, the Missouri slowly changed course and the channel moved away from this bank. So you can kind of see from this sketch what it looked like. The big boats, Fort Union's tie-up located on the bank right in front of us here. Come, Kit. All right, what's this? Visitors entering had to pass through outer and inner gates separated by an enclosed area with access to the Indian trade room. When the outer gate was closed, trading could be carried on through a wicket or window just to the left of the entrance. Oh, there it is. Configuration of this area provided security during periods of hostilities and when the threat of smallpox was present. It also permitted separating unfriendly Indian groups from each other when they came to Fort Union to trade. A giant fur press was located near the front gate. The huge device compressed furs into 100-pound bales for shipment to St. Louis. So that's what that is. Interesting. So this must be the Bailey wicket in Old English times. You want to conduct your trade through here? Or do you want to conduct your trade through here? Oh, and there's a desk in there. I think we can go in to that building. This is the trade house. Wow, look at this big, yeah, this is not an ADA compliant site at all. Good morning.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
I thought you were a mannequin when I first came in.
I did too. This is a
Where are you guys
really
listening
nice
from?
place. Washington State.
Nevada.
Hey, welcome.
Wow. Oh, I like the fabrics here.
Uh-huh.
Quilters would have loved those fabrics.
Yep.
They usually weren't so colorful.
Well, you guys are in the trade house. This is more or less the nerve center of the entire trading post because this is where all trade was negotiated and where trade happened between the Great Plains tribes and the employees of the American Fur Company. The room that you're standing in here was the reception room. This is where trade would be hammered out, negotiated, and how trade itself worked. It was actually a very social event. First, a chief and some of his men, maybe up to 15 or 20 of them, would show up right outside, and upon entering the trade house, they'd be greeted by two people. A trader who looks a lot like me, and an interpreter. The interpreter would speak the chief's native language fluently, saying, please have a seat by the fire, relax, enjoy yourselves. Coffee would be served, there'd be food as well. A lot of the times there would also be news traded from the United States and the tribes as well. This was also because the interpreter might actually be related to the chief. A lot of them did marry into the tribes because it was seen as good economic business. All in all, this could take around 8 hours.
Wow.
There would be lots of gift giving as well, and only then would trade actually start. So, a chief would bring out one of his nicest pelts and give it to the trader. While the trader was looking it over, the chief would more or less do a salesman's pitch, talking about how better these robes were compared with last year's, etc. And if the chief and trader could come to a good price agreement, then the chief would take that information back to his tribe or band. It was often just camped out beyond the north gate over there, saying, the fort's open. So, a majority of the tribe, mostly the women who kept the furs, would come to the front of the fort here and trade out of those two wickets.
Cool.
It's neat that they have.
All right, so we just came through the front gate, and here's where they can close it off. Just to give you a quick overview, this is not a huge fort, because it really was all about trade. More than about defensive positions. So we're going to go ahead in and watch the park film and get some more info. (1851). So John Jacob Astor had his hands in a lot of pots, guys, just in case you weren't aware. Check out the shoe scraper, boot scraper. Once again, not ADA compliant. They did put a ramp in though. So there's that. If you would do the door honors, my dear.
Entrez-vous, s'il vous plaît.
Okay. Look, it lights up just for us.
The way this is folded, I didn't realize that said Fort U.
Oh, here's the passport stamp. Let me do that.
Okay.
It's always worth reading the signs. Wow, look at the beaver pelt. I actually owned 3 beaver pelts that I let go when I sold pretty much everything from my big house. And mine were like really dark and bigger than that. Really cool. This was all really the result of John Jacob Astor's vision to start international trade. He merged with Pierre Chaltou Jr. and Kenneth Mackenzie, and their collective ambitions and independence helped shape the future of the upper Missouri. And so basically what happens was, the fur trade in its largest scope was international commerce. It was just a part of his worldwide interest. And Astor's ships were some of the first American vessels to trade with China. So we've got different eras through 1867. So 1829 to 1867, I think, were the main years for the fort. I guess you can pet that fluffy cow. I think I'm gonna. Okay, now I understand why people want to pet the fluffy cows. Blankets. So I just find the history fascinating. You know, the interplay between all of the different cultures and how it is that we got to where we are. And part of what they said in the video here is, see, I'm touching all the furs. Kit's sniffing all the furs. Part of what they talked about in the video is how this really is such an international undertaking and how it changed the lives of people in a very short period of time. And it makes me wonder if this is like the first fur trading establishment, or if there were others that were further east. And even if there were others further east, is this the first? So those are some questions. So what's interesting to me is that I know I'm going to say the name of the nation wrong, Assiniboine actually asked to have the fur trading fort built here. Another thing that's interesting is that this is one of the few forts that is not military at all. This was simply trading. So right in front of us is the foundation of what would have been the dwelling range that was used to house clerks, interpreters, hunters, employees, as well as their Indian wives and children. And there was a lot of intermarrying. So the new dwelling range was constructed shortly after thereafter on this original foundation. It was described as being not as substantial as the store range. It consisted of nearly 6 equal compartments, each with a fireplace. So you can kind of get an overview of what that might have looked like. And over on the other side would be the storehouse, the store range. We can go in here to the clerk's office. And so we shall. Got some interesting looking equipment over there. We'll check that out. Occasionally, the clerk's office acted as a meeting place between the bourgeois and important American Indian leaders. Look at that cute puppy dog up there on the wall. Okay. Hey, baby bunny. He might be afraid when Kit gets close to him. Run, bunny, run. Did you scare that bunny off? Did you scare that bunny off, Kit? So I'm guessing this would have been smithing. I hear doves. This is the Bourgeois House, they call it. The most elaborate structure on the upper Missouri River during the peak of the fur trade. This was also one of the longest operating forts. Guided by elegant and detailed drawings of artist Rudolph Frederick Kurtz, an 1866 photograph of the house by William Illingsworth, and archaeological excavations, the National Park Service has reconstructed it to its 1851 grandeur. However, only the floor plan can be documented in the historical record, which precluded reconstruction of the interior space. That explains that. The first house was a more simple French colonial design. In 1843, Bourgeois Edward Denig wrote, "It is 78 feet front, 24 feet deep, and a story and a half high." He continued, "The piazza, porch, in front adds much to the comfort and appearance." During the winter of 1850, the Upper Missouri outfit remodeled the house into a classic revival structure, adding a full second floor and the two-story porch to express the America's roots of the company. Very interesting. Pretty sure this was all just the storage side. Yeah, the store range. Principal warehouse and business center at Fort Union. Furs and robes were processed for shipment to St. Louis. Meat was stored in a center room. Visitors and employees bought necessities in the retail store and packed away their baggage in another chamber. So there you go. All right, we're going to go walk out the back side here because I saw a few more signs. So we're going to go take a look. Now, interestingly, I'm not seeing any cactus in the grass here, which was our big problem yesterday at Fort Buford. Poor Kit was stepping on hidden cactus every few feet. And I ended up having to carry him around quite a bit there. But here, he's doing just fine. Some kind of trail out there. This prairie restoration project is funded by park fees. Except that this is a fee-free area, they said. Overland travelers usually departed from the back gate, which was located just behind where we're now standing. This was the takeoff point to the wilderness trails and gold fields beyond. The vast prairie lay before them. In summer, Indian encampments could be seen nearby. Teepees dotted the landscape and smoke curled from cooking fires. Years after Fort Union ceased operations, the prairie gave way to railroads, hayfields, and farming. Today, the native grasses have been restored through a restoration program. Okay. So this is the back gate. And now you know. So, I would count this as one of the lesser popular national park units, but these are the kinds that I often prefer. And I hope that you have enjoyed coming along to visit Fort Union with us. Where are we going to be tomorrow? I don't know. We're going to find out.
A few minutes later.
We are at the confluence of the Missouri and Yellowstone Rivers. And this is some pretty fast flowing water here. I looked down here this morning and saw how fast it was flowing, and I thought there was, something pumping water in. But I think it's just current. Look at this beautiful view. Oh, somebody got a boat in down there. Interesting. I didn't know there was a boat ramp over there. I only saw this one. And we're camped. Not very far over there at all. We're camped at the next boat ramp. Uh-oh. Oh, I was going to say I lost my dog. Did you want to go swimming, Kit? Did you want to put your feet in? You want to put your feet in the water and see what it feels like? You gonna check it out? Check it out? Or are you just gonna take a little taste of it? See how that water tastes? It's not very clear. Okay, I guess we're not gonna go swimming today. He doesn't ever really swim. He has followed me into the water, but once it gets up to his chest, he decides he's had enough. He's not much of a water dog. Of course, I don't think I know many Chihuahuas that are. Although I'm thinking about getting a watercraft of some sort, a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard. And then we'll see what kind of water dog he turns out to be. I'll have to get him a life jacket if I do that, of course. And I bet he'll want to go just because he doesn't want to be left alone. That'd be my bet. So, I don't know exactly where that guy put in. Oh, might be right there. See where the tree is right there? And on this side of it, there's a little gravel kit. Let's go this way. Come on. Interesting area here. So this all, sorry, very steep boat ramp. I don't know if you can really tell or not, but it is. Hey, Kit. Kit. He's over there sniffing. Another overview. So this belongs to the Bureau of Reclamation, as does the next area over where we're camped. This is gravel, that's all paved. And apparently there are sites with electric hookups, which we're not using. We're just parked along the edge. We don't need no stinking electricity. Although we're going to an Army Corps of Engineers campground tomorrow, which does have electricity. You coming? Kit. Here he comes. And we're going to stay there for 2 nights. Just because we can. Is that my puppy dog? Is that my very, very good boy? You're getting awfully independent. Yes, you are. And of course, Army Corps of Engineers campgrounds, it'll be near water. And we'll find out how many bugs there are there. Where you going? I think I know where he's going. All right, so I'll show you where we're camped. Just around the corner here. I don't want to get too far away from Kit because this is basically a farm road and people have been tearing up and down it pretty quick. So I won't take a chance on him getting hurt. You coming? Here he comes. There's a little canal right here on the other side of the road. And then, see where this driveway goes right back down? Well, this is where we're camped. See us down there?
Wake up with the sun in our eyes. Sally forth, no need for goodbyes.